What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Tree Football channel, and in today's video I'm going to be continuing my NFL preview and predictions for the upcoming 2021 to 2022 NFL season, and today I'm going to be continuing with the LA Rams. Now, the Rams went 10-6 last season. They finished second in the NFC West, and they made it to the playoffs, where they beat the Seahawks on the wildcard game, and then they lost to the Packers in the divisional round. And the Rams, in my opinion, are probably going to be one of the best teams in the NFL this season, largely due to them getting rid of their former quarterback Jared Goff, trading him to the Detroit Lions in exchange for Matt Stafford. And I'll talk more about that later, but I think that could be a big move for them for this season. The Rams also play in what is, in my opinion, the toughest division in the league, the NFC West, which features 4 potential playoff contenders. But I still think the Rams are really talented overall and have a good chance to maybe even win the division. So I'm going to get right into the preview and the predictions. Starting off with the key players like I did last time with the Bengals. First key player has to be Matt Stafford. I think he's a really, really talented quarterback, and I just don't think he's really ever had the pieces around him to show that in Detroit, and I think this is his chance with the Rams. I kind of think the same thing about the Rams. I think for the past couple years they've been a quarterback away. I just don't think Jared Goff was ever really going to be like a really, really talented quarterback for them. So I think moving on from him and finding someone who isn't really going to be the future of the team because he's getting a little bit older, but he's someone that can kind of be good right now. I think that's definitely good, and I think that, like I said, they've been a quarterback away, and now that they got a really talented and capable quarterback in Matt Stafford, they have a chance to be a Super Bowl contender this season. My next key player is Cooper Kupp. I think he'll probably be the number 1 receiver this season. Maybe it'll be Robert Woods, but I think Cooper Kupp probably. And I think he's going to be essential to this team, especially now with them losing Cam Akers for the season. He tore his Achilles. I think he would have been a key player. I actually had him on this list, but then he got injured. So, obviously, he's not going to be a key player anymore. And I think now that they're going to have to rely on the pass game a little bit more, I think Cooper Kupp is going to have to be essential to this team this season. And now I'm moving on to defensive players now. I got 3 defensive players. First up is Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is arguably the best defensive player in the league. He had to be on this list. He's going to have another great season. He's just incredibly talented, and he's probably going to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year again. Then Jalen Ramsey, arguably the best cornerback in the league. I mean, he's really talented as well. He's been good since getting traded to the Rams a few seasons ago from the Jaguars. Just a really talented player, and I think receivers are going to have a tough time with him this season again. And then the last one, I was thinking who should be the 5th key player, and I decided to go with Darius Williams, a bit of an underrated player. He's a cornerback also like Jalen Ramsey. He's heading into his 4th season in the league. He had 4 interceptions last year, 2 interceptions the year before that. And I think he could help make the Rams, or help make the duo between him and Jalen Ramsey one of the best in the league, because I think he's a really solid cornerback as well. I think he could improve even more this season. So he's someone to definitely keep your eye on that you might not have known before this. Moving on to notable additions, I only have 3. The first one, obviously the biggest one, is trading for quarterback Matt Stafford. I already talked about Stafford. I'm not going to talk about him much here, but this is such a big move. He's going to make a big difference. He's going to come in. He's going to be the starting quarterback, and he's going to be expected to win games for this team. Obviously, really talented, and we'll see how he does with the Rams, and I think he should do really well. They also signed wide receiver Deshaun Jackson. Played with the Eagles for a couple seasons. I am an Eagles fan, but he never really did much. He had a lot of injuries. In his first game back with the Eagles, he did really well, but then he just struggled to stay on the field after that. And I think he was going to leave at some point. And I think that maybe he could make a bit of an impact with the Rams this season. I don't know. It depends if he can stay healthy. Obviously, like I said, he has not been able to do that recently. He's not the player he once was. He's way out of his prime, but maybe he can be solid this season for the Rams. And then they also drafted wide receiver Tutu Atwell with their first pick in the draft, which was in the 2nd round. Because they didn't have a first-round pick. Tutu Atwell is a solid player. He is pretty undersized, but he's someone that I think is a pretty good prospect. I thought he was pretty underrated coming out of college. I think he's very talented. I think he's been good at Louisville in college, so I like this pick. I like this pick in the draft. I know there were other additions as well. None of them I didn't really consider any of them to be notable. This team really didn't do much this offseason. And they made a couple big moves like trading for Matt Stafford, but they just didn't really make that many notable ones. Moving on to notable offseason losses. First two players from the secondary, John Johnson and Troy Hill. I believe they both went to the Cleveland Browns. They're both solid players, and I think that might affect them a little bit. With the loss of Troy Hill, I think he's a solid cornerback, but I think the Rams have cornerbacks that can fill in for him. And then John Johnson, I think he was a talented safety. I think he was really good for them, but I do think that the Rams probably do have safeties that can maybe not do as well as him, but do good enough. Then moving on to a couple of defensive linemen, we got Michael Brockers and Samson Ebukam, who both left. Ebukam, not really as much a defensive end, more of an outside linebacker, but I thought he was pretty good. I liked him when he was with the Rams. Obviously, he's gone now. And Michael Brockers, I thought he was talented as well, but when he got Aaron Donald in that defensive line, I don't think you need to worry all too much. And then, of course, the most notable one, that's Jared Goff, went to the Lions from the Rams. He had been solid. He was never bad, I don't think, but he was just never really good. And I mean, they used the first pick in the draft on him. They were expecting a lot, and I'm not sure if they ever got that. So I think trading him for Matt Stafford, I think he was a good trade. So Goff, like I said, never bad, just never good enough. And I mean, he did take them to a Super Bowl, but I think he was largely carried by the defense that year. So good player with the Rams, just not good enough. So I'm not that surprised to see him get traded and try and start his career back up again with a different team. Now moving on to the schedule. Let's get right into it with Week 1 against the Bears at home. The Bears are an interesting team this year. It's going to be interesting to see who's starting at quarterback. I think in Week 1 it will be Andy Dalton. I'm not sure if they're going to put Justin Fields in immediately. I don't think they will. I think it will be Andy Dalton. I think the Bears definitely have some solid players. I think defensively they're okay. I think they have some good players on offense as well. But just they're not. I don't think they can compare to this Rams team. The Bears did make the playoffs last year, barely. They weren't even that good last season, but they snuck in with that 7th spot in the playoffs. Yeah, I just don't see this being a close one in LA. This shouldn't be close at all. Definitely the Rams are going to win this one. Week 2 at the Colts. This is one that could go either way for me. I think the Colts, they were good last season. I think they could get even better this season. Philip Rivers retired. They brought in Carson Wentz. A lot of people don't think Carson Wentz is going to be good due to a really bad season, obviously, last year. But I think he's going to be actually really good. I think he might struggle a little bit earlier in the season. Obviously this game is early in the season. But I think that Carson Wentz will improve. The coach of the Colts, of course, is Frank Reich, the coach who really helped Carson Wentz become the MVP front runner he was before he got injured in 2017. I think he can bounce back in a big way. I think this Colts team has a ton of talent at the running back position, at the defense. Defensively, I think they're one of the best teams in the league, on the offensive line as well. So I think this Colts team has a lot of talent all around, and I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the league this year. And this game is in Indianapolis, so I definitely could see the Colts maybe getting an upset. I think it would probably be a bit of an upset if they got the win here. But I am going to go with the Rams. I think I'm going to give them the slight edge. Maybe this game goes to overtime. Maybe it goes down to the wire. I think this will be definitely a close game and definitely a really good game, one that I'm definitely looking forward to. But I think the Rams will take the slight edge in this one. But this one that, for me, it's pretty close to 50-50. Maybe like 60-40 for the Rams or something. But this game could definitely go either way, but I'm going to give the edge to the Rams. Week 3 against the Buccaneers, the defending Super Bowl champions. Another tough one right here. I think the Buccaneers are going to get worse this season. A little bit worse. Even though they brought everyone back, I still think they're going to be a great team. They're still going to be a contender. I think they're going to take a little bit of a step back because their players are getting older, obviously. And it's often hard to duplicate the success, after winning a Super Bowl the next season. We saw that from the Rams. Obviously, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but a few years ago they made the Super Bowl, and then they didn't even make it to the playoffs the next season. I'm not saying the Buccaneers are going to miss the playoffs. I definitely think they will be in the playoffs this season. And I think that this is an interesting one. It's in LA. I think the Buccaneers are going to get worse this season. I think the Rams are going to get a little bit better. I'm going to give this one to the Rams as well. Once again, another game that could go either way. All these games so far, I think, could go either way, except for the game against the Bears. But yeah, I think the Buccaneers, they could win this game easily, I think. But I definitely think that the Rams are just a really good team. And I think that the pressure from the defensive line, and the cornerbacks, it might be too much. I think this defense is just good enough, and then Matt Stafford and that offense will be able to put up enough points to beat the Buccaneers. Week 4 against the Cardinals, a team that I think is going to be really good this season, and I said this last year, but I feel even more strongly about it this year. I think Kyler Murray can be good. I know some people are doubting Cliff Kingsbury right now. This is kind of a make-or-break year for him, but I think the Cardinals are going to be really good this year. But I think in Week 4, the Rams are going to win this one. I don't see the Cardinals winning this game, mostly because this game is at home for the Rams. I think when the game is in Arizona, it could get a little bit more interesting. But for me, even though the Cardinals are a very good team and could definitely contend in this division and maybe even in the NFC in general this season, I just think that the Rams are maybe a couple steps ahead. And I think they'll be able to edge this one out. Week 5 against the Seahawks. Now, this is an interesting one. And this one, another game that could go either way. I think the Seahawks are a really good team. I think they're going to take a step back. Obviously, the Rams played them in the wild card game last year. I think the Seahawks are a good team, and I think this will be a tough one for the Rams. Like I said, could go either way. I could definitely see the Rams winning this game like I have had them winning all the other ones so far. But I'm going to give the win to the Seahawks here. I think it'll be close, but I think Russell Wilson is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he does have enough talent around him, even though the team is a little bit weaker overall than the Rams. I think the Seahawks will just about be able to edge this one in Seattle. Obviously, Seattle is such a tough place to play in, especially when the fans were there. I think the fans will be there this season. So I could see the Rams winning this one, but I'm going to give the edge to the Seahawks. Week 6 in New York against the Giants, or at MetLife Stadium, I should say. I don't really see this one being too close. Even though it's a road game for the Rams, the Giants aren't a very good team in my opinion. I'm going to give this one to the Rams pretty easily. Daniel Jones just hasn't proved anything. He hasn't proved he's a good quarterback in his career. I don't see the Giants team being good enough overall. Saquon Barkley will probably be back at this point, and I think he'll be good, but I think overall this Giants team does not even compare to the quality of this Rams team. Week 7 against the Lions at home. This is the easiest one yet. This is a win. The Lions are going to be a bad team this year, I think. Losing probably one of their best players, losing a lot of their best players as well. Kenny Golladay left. Obviously, Matt Stafford came to the Rams, like I've mentioned so many times. And I just don't think Jared Goff will be able to win against his former team. I think this game won't even be close at home. This is going to be a big win for the Rams. Easily win there in Week 7. Week 8, another one, playing against, in my opinion, what is the worst team in the NFL. They're on the road for this one. That shouldn't make a difference. This is an easy win. The Texans, Deshaun Watson probably not going to play this season. He might not play at all. He might not, but he's probably not going to play for the Texans. So this game, Texans have no chance. The Texans went, I believe, 4-12 last season with Deshaun Watson on the team, and without him, they're going to be a lot worse. So I just cannot see the Texans winning this game at all. Easy win here. Week 9 against the Titans. Now this is one of the more interesting games as well this season. Titans are going to be a good team. Their offense is one of the best in the league. Ryan Tannehill's a pretty good quarterback, and I think he's above average. But Derrick Henry, probably the best running back in the league. He was so good last season. And then also they just traded for Julio Jones, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. Probably the second best in the league. So, I mean, this Titans team is going to be so good offensively. And then defensively, they're pretty good as well. They brought in Bud Dupree this offseason. They drafted Caleb Farley. We'll see if he's on the field at this point. This one could go either way, just like so many of the other ones. I do think the Rams will be able to edge this one out. I think it's one of those games that both teams are pretty equal in talent. Both of these teams are going to be Super Bowl contenders this season. I think it's possible that this is the Super Bowl matchup this season, the Titans versus the Rams. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think these two teams could be the best teams in their conferences and could meet up in this Super Bowl. But I'm going to give the edge to the Rams here because at home, I think that they do have more talent overall because I think the Rams' defense is better, and I think they will be able to prevent maybe the Titans' offense from getting going. It's tough to say, I think, because the Titans' offense can get going very easily with some of the talent they have. But I'm going to give the win to the Rams. Week 10 at the 49ers, another really tough one. Assuming Jimmy Garoppolo is starting at this point, maybe Trey Lance gets in. I like Trey Lance a lot. But the 49ers defense obviously is the strong point of this team. But I think the 49ers will be good this season, but I'm not sure how they'll compare against teams that are as good as the Rams. I just think their quarterback situation isn't good enough right now, and I think offensively there's some holes there. And I think they're a talented team, and I think they probably will make the playoffs, but offensively I'm not sure if there's enough. I'm going to give this one to the Rams. Week 11 they have a bye. Week 12 at the Packers. This is the team that they lost to in the playoffs at Lambeau Field. At Lambeau Field again, assuming that Aaron Rodgers plays this game, which there's a chance he doesn't, but assuming he does play, I'm going to give him a loss here. I think the Packers are pretty even in talent to the Rams if Aaron Rodgers is on the field. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers won the MVP last season. There's been so much talk about him leaving, but if he does play, which I do think he will, I know that there's definitely a good chance he doesn't play. I'm not sure if he'll play, but if he does play, I'm going to give the Packers the win here. If he doesn't play, Rams are probably going to win this one, but if he does play, I think it will be a Packers win. Week 13 against the Jaguars, I don't really need to talk about this one. It's going to be an easy Rams win. At home against a better but still weak Jaguars team, this game shouldn't be close. Trevor Lawrence obviously is a good player, but playing against a defense as good as the Rams, I just can't see him doing much in his rookie season. So this one, maybe the easiest one yet. It's going to be a win for the Rams. Week 14 at the Cardinals. Now, this one is a lot more interesting than the home game against the Cardinals earlier in the season. And it's another one that could go either way. The Cardinals have a lot of talent offensively. Kyler Murray is a really good quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins is, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's top 3 at the very minimum, I think. And the Cardinals have some really good talent on defense as well. The cornerback position is a little bit of a question mark, but I think the defensive line is strong. I think the linebackers are good. And obviously, they also have Budda Baker at safety, so I think they have good safeties as well. This Cardinals team is really good, and in Arizona, I could see them putting up more of a challenge. I am still going to give the Rams the win here, but this is one of those games that the Cardinals could definitely win, and I wouldn't be surprised. Week 15 against the Seahawks at home. I'm going to say they win this one. I had them losing to the Seahawks on the road earlier, but I think at home, I think it'll be easier to win. The only reason really I gave them the loss in Week 5 is because I think these two teams are kind of even in talent. I definitely think the Rams are more talented, but I think the Seahawks are close. But a large reason I gave the Seahawks that win is because they're going to be behind their home fans, obviously, with the 12th man in Seattle. And without that, I'm not sure the Seahawks will be able to win this one. Like I said, the Rams, I think, are definitely more talented. So I'm going to give the Rams the win here. Week 16 against the Vikings. The Vikings are a really underrated team this year. They're going to be very good, and I think the Rams are going to have trouble here. I think the Vikings' defense is good. I think Dalvin Cook is a really talented running back, and I think this offense is good enough to beat the Rams. So I'm gonna give a little bit of an upset here. I'm going to give the Vikings the win. Could the Rams win this game? Absolutely. Do I think that the Rams will win this game? Not really. I think the Vikings can edge it. I think the Vikings have enough talented players, a good defense, a good enough offense with some really talented players there. Obviously, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, who had such a good season last year. I think this Viking team is good enough. I'm going to give them the win there. Week 17 at the Ravens. This is a really tough one. On the road against the Baltimore Ravens, a really good team. Lamar Jackson is a good quarterback. Obviously, not the best as a passer, but excellent as a runner, and still solid as a passer. And I think this Ravens team, there's a lot of talent there. There's good defensive talent, a lot of good offensive talent as well. Maybe not as much as there is defensive talent, but still enough to win a lot of games this season. This is going to be a really good game. But I am going to give the Rams the win here. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say they can come up with the win. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be a close game either way. But I am going to give the Rams a slight win. Maybe it's going to go to overtime. Maybe it's going to be very close. But I'm going to give the Rams a slight win. And then Week 18 versus the 49ers. Maybe the Rams will be benching their starters at this point. Maybe they'll have already clinched the division, and maybe they'll have already clinched the 1 seed, especially if the season turns out how I've had it so far. But I'm just going to say that they're going to keep their starters in. I do think they'll win this one. I think they can beat the 49ers on the road, and I don't think they should have too much trouble beating them at home. Even though the 49ers are a solid team, I think the Rams should win that one. Moving on now to the final record prediction for them. I have it being 14-3, like you just saw. I only have them losing 3 games. Those are to the Seahawks, to the Packers, and to the Vikings. For me, the ceiling is 15-2, maybe 16-1. I think it's possible they go 16-1. Because of the 3 games I lost, I think they could potentially win 2 of those, but then maybe lose somewhere else somewhere. So I'm going to say the ceiling is 15-2, maybe 16-1, but I think that's pushing it. 17-0, I just don't see that happening. But the floor for me, 10-7, which is not a bad record at all. But they have a few really tough games. Obviously, the 3 I had them losing. They could lose in Baltimore to the Ravens. They could lose against the Colts on the road. They could lose against the Cardinals. They could lose against the 49ers. They have a few games that I think they could lose that I did have them winning. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt in most of the games. I think Matt Stafford will be good. I think this team overall will be good enough. I think the defense is great. So I do think the Rams will go 14-3 this season, and I think they'll make the playoffs, even if they go 10-7. I think their floor is still good enough to make the playoffs. I think this Rams team is one of the best teams in the league this season, and without a doubt, a contender for the Super Bowl. So that is going to be it for my LA Rams preview and prediction. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.